Live from the Washington, D.C. area, it's the Inside Scoop. All the news that our viewers want to know. Now, here's the host.
Welcome to Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and joining me tonight is Lori McNamara. She is the president of the Democratic Business Council of Northern Virginia. Thank you so much for being here, Lori.
Thank you, Catherine. It's a pleasure to be with you this evening.
So I know a little bit about what we affectionately call Dem Biz. Because years ago I was invited to a Dem Biz meeting in 2010 and discovered that there was this group of people here in Northern Virginia who were interested in where politics intersects with good business. Give me a little bit background of how you first came upon Dem Biz.
So I got involved with Dem Biz about 5 years ago. I've been a business executive in the government contracting industry here for 2 decades now. I've been involved in Democratic politics for almost that long and never really saw the opportunity to marry the two. So it was a wonderful discovery to find Dem Biz and find like-minded business professionals that shared my values.
So the organization was actually founded in 2003 by Scott Serval, who's now Virginia Senator Scott Serval, Lori Blackburn, and Kevin Cook. 2003 in Virginia, that's 16 years ago. Things did not look the way they look today. Give us some overview of how they did look.
Well, if you think back in 2003, of course, we were early on in the Bush administration. Virginia itself was still a very red state. Northern Virginia was still very red. So anyone, particularly in the business community, that sympathized with democratic values was feeling pretty lonely at that time. So the founding of Dem Biz really was a reaction to that. A forum to bring together business executives who share democratic values in a place that, quite frankly, they could feel safe to express the values that were of most value to them.
A lot of things have changed, obviously, in 16 years, including the fact that most of our Northern Virginia delegation now are Democratic. There are very few Republicans left. That's congressionally speaking, in our state offices, and in our county offices as well. But part of supporting people running on democratic values that, as they specifically pertain to businesses, is gathering people together. Like, there's force in numbers. And so explain a little bit about the programs that have tried to bring thought leaders together with local business leaders.
Certainly. I think when people think about business issues, they think about the traditional Chamber of Commerce type business issues. Taxation, deregulation. Yes, certainly those are major considerations for businesses here in Northern Virginia. But I think what people don't realize or don't think about so much is that our businesses here in Northern Virginia are so much based on our employees. And being able to attract and retain quality employees gets us into the issues that those employees care about. They care about education. They care about developing their own skills. They care about affordable housing. They care about health care. All of a sudden, we're into a whole range of issues as business leaders that have not been traditionally thought of as Chamber of Commerce type issues. Well, what are they? They are issues that Democrats are very, very strong on. And that's where we've seen a real opportunity as time has gone by to bring Dem Biz into the 21st century, focusing on these kinds of issues. So we've been able to pull that through in our programming. We have a variety of different programs, mostly focused on a monthly schedule, but we actually do a variety of different programs in different locations. We have a policy initiative where we're developing policy papers on some of the key issues that I just talked about, specifically geared to the business point of view on healthcare, education, transportation, that our elected need to know.
So Medicaid expansion, now that was good that you plucked that right out, because that has been an ongoing battle in Northern Virginia. And even though most of the chambers of commerce across the Commonwealth of Virginia ended up being behind Medicaid expansion, that became a partisan issue. Definitely a partisan issue. Nobody asked for it to be a partisan issue. It ended up that there were two sides, a Democratic one and a Republican one, and businesses had to decide, as you said, what's in the best interest of their business and their employees. And so many businesses, large and small, and chambers came down on the side of wanting Medicaid expansion. That did not move the other side.
Well, and I think we're seeing examples like this across the board in states like North Carolina with HB2, where companies are literally walking, right? When they see a controversial issue that is not sympathetic to their values and the values of their employees.
Well, yeah, I heard Meredith Singer at a conference last week. She is the government and legislative affairs person for IBM. IBM is a huge, well-known, well-established national company, and she was saying that the HB2, called the bathroom bill in North Carolina, is a point at which they felt they could not stand on the sidelines and abandon their LGBTQ employees. And so they acted. And then when a similar bill was put forward in Texas, they were prepared to go in as a business based in Texas with employees in Texas to say, no, we will not support this. This is not in the best interest of our employees. And that kind of surprises me. You would think of IBM as being a very conservative, a lot of larger corporations, you think of them as being conservative. But another participant at that conference was United Airlines. They have a business resource group with 3,200 employees in that group, LGBT employees around the world. So do you see that, or do you feel like we are seeing a shift in business where people are like, no, we have to be involved in good public policy?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And if for no other reason than the fact we are in essentially a zero unemployment economy. It is a battle every single day for the type of qualified employees that all of us need here in Northern Virginia. So to be able to reflect the values that our workforce demonstrates and values, absolutely critical. We see that in businesses, as you say, of all sizes.
So we have the Northern Virginia Chamber of Commerce. By the way, they were involved in this Inclusion Incorporated along with the U.S. Chamber, which stunned me. Again, I do not think of the U.S. Chamber as being a thought leader on LGBT issues, but bad me, because we're all evolving. So give these people a break. So they put together this very successful event. And so the Northern Virginia Chamber was involved, the Gill Foundation, the Equality of Virginia. Talk a little bit about collaboration that we are seeing starting to happen. People are not just doing their own thing in their own silos. Dem Business also finding partners.
Oh, absolutely. And that's actually been a big focus of mine in the nearly 2 years that I've been president of the organization, is to reach out and work with organizations such as the Truman National Security Project.
Right.
We had a wonderful partnership with Bishop Garrison, who was the acting director at the time, and the Truman team to bring in Michelle Flournoy last fall. I had a wonderful conversation with Dr. Flournoy about foreign policy and how foreign policy was developing in the Trump administration, and certainly looking forward past this administration and what to expect. We are engaging in a partnership just this week, in fact, with 1776 in Crystal City to host a Women in Politics panel discussion. This is a really exciting event where not only are we engaging 1776, but we're also doing this in partnership with Network Nova, which is sponsoring the Women's Summit next week, which hopefully many of your viewers will be attending.
We've had them on the show before. Those ladies of Network Nova, they are on fire.
They are absolutely wonderful, and we're very excited to have this discussion now. I mean, what perfect timing to talk about the role of women in politics, particularly running for elected office. I mean, certainly with the election of Representatives Wexton, Spanberger, Loria. Certainly great inroads being made at the state level here in Virginia and at the local level. It's a tremendous time to see women actually take on leadership roles in elected office. So it's going to be a wonderful conversation. We're going to be talking with Emily Kane, who is the executive director of Emily's List, Jessica Post, who is the executive director of the Democratic Leadership Campaign Committee, and Delegate Chernill Herring, who of course you know very well.
I do.
Who is the chair of the House Democratic Caucus. And that panel discussion is going to be moderated by our own Julie Jakopic, who is also the chair of Virginia's List. So we're very much looking forward to that panel discussion. It's going to be this Thursday, June 20th, from 8 to 10 a.m. at 1776 in Crystal City. So we certainly welcome all of your viewers to join us.
Absolutely, and we should mention that dembiz.org is the place to find information about upcoming events. What I find so interesting about, more women being in decision-making positions is things like paid family leave. Nothing has happened, nothing has happened, nothing has happened. Suddenly, since 2016, there are more women in Congress, there are more women in state legislatures, but the very fact that businesses run on, like you said, there's such low unemployment, you need a full workforce. But when families have to decide between both parents working or daycare, because daycare is both unaffordable, unavailable, inaccessible, and inadequate leave is given to families. So, I think we're finally seeing some traction on something that should have been addressed 30 years ago.
Very much so. And actually, one of the other partnerships that we're forming is with the Partnership for Family Friendly Virginia. And they
Brianna Sewell.
Brianna Sewell, yes.
I had her on the show.
Yes. Who is just a fabulous leader in this effort. And one of the areas that we're partnering with them on is we are launching our first annual Dem Biz Democratic Business Awards next year.
Oh, fantastic.
And one of the areas that we're going to be looking for in terms of honoring the companies and organizations that will be recognized in this event are those companies and organizations that demonstrate family-friendly policies around family leave, around early childhood education, et cetera. So we're really excited to be able to capitalize on this partnership.
There's a lot of organizations doing great work in this area. I've also had on the show before the National Partnership for Women and Families. Because we are a company town and we are so close to DC, and there's a lot of nonprofits and other kinds of organizations in DC working, and we've been very fortunate, Dem Business has been very fortunate to get some of these people as our breakfast series speakers. People have come out who, because they work in the State Department or they work in other kind of big jobs. Neera Tanden, has been a speaker before. Incredible speakers for Dem Biz. And I think, working with people who are already taking a leadership role is certainly a path forward. When we come back from this break, we're going to be talking some more with Lori McNamara. She is the president of the Democratic Business Council of Northern Virginia. And we're going to be talking about their mission, their vision, their goals, and how you too can get involved. Join us after the break.
Okay, so we drowned the fire, stirred it, drowned it again, and now just feel if it's cold.
Yeah.
Cool.
Smokey just gave me a bear hug.
I know. I already posted it.
I got a creak in my neck, limp in my step, cramping in my muscles every time I try to flex. But I don't wanna get but if you throw me love, I'll throw you some more.
It's a big responsibility.
Oh, it's huge. I know, it's huge.
And the salary.
Oh my god, yes. I mean,
Right?
like, I was about to move in with my parents, and right before, so this saved me.
I really believe in you,
Thank you. It's nice to hear that from someone.
These are cool. Did you, what did you?
we're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and tonight we're talking with Lori McNamara. She is the president of the Democratic Business Council of Northern Virginia. Thanks so much for being with us here tonight, Lori.
Absolutely.
So I want to point out that, at least in my knowledge of the history of Dem Biz, you are the first woman president, and you have landed in this role at quite a fortuitous time in the history of our country. When I first became involved with Dem Biz in 2010, and I was invited by Tom Greason. It was the first time I had met Tom Greason, Bob Haley, and Bettina Lawton. That's June 4th, 2010. The president then was Jim Hawk, followed by Varun Nakor, followed by Tom Greason, Nicholas Jordan, Dak Hardwick, and then Lori McNamara. You know, in that span of time since 2010, you know, there's been some great leadership, and there's been some really strong leadership from the board. But you know, I look at the board now and realize there's so much diversity there, and you know, you're going out in different directions. It's just such a momentous time for Dem Biz right now.
It really is, Catherine. I think it mirrors what we're seeing on the elected side, obviously, with the diversity of our Northern Virginia elected delegation. It's great and it's fun, actually, to be able to reflect that in the leadership of Dem Biz too. So one of the first things that we did when I became president in beginning of 2018 is that we took a fresh look at our programming. It's what we're most known for, most famous for our first Friday of the month breakfast at the Tower Club. We still have people that ask about where are those first Friday of the month breakfasts at the Tower Club. Wonderful tradition. I think we realized it was a good opportunity to freshen things up a bit, try some new things. I was very grateful to have a largely new board. We had some great representatives from past boards who joined us, but by and large we had a new board, very diverse board, willing to let us experiment, which was a little scary, right? Because you never know what kind of reaction you're going to get. You try some things work, some things don't. But I'm very grateful that both our executive committee, our board, and our membership allowed us to try some new things. So the first, probably most notable change is we still do monthly breakfasts. They're not always on the first Friday of the month anymore. They're not always at the Tower Club anymore. And that's by design. The timing, well, quite frankly, we are working with a different level of speaker by and large now.
Yes, indeed.
And we can certainly get into some of the most recent speakers and some of the upcoming ones that we are pursuing. When you do that, you obviously are much more beholden to their schedules than to yours. So I think we had to first come to some level of peace with that fact. Secondly, in taking a look at our relationship with the Tower Club, great venue, great partnership, we realized that there were also some other really interesting places
all over
that
Northern
were
Virginia.
all over Northern Virginia, even just within the Tyson area where we've been traditionally based. So we saw this as an opportunity to explore some of the new co-working spaces, the new conference spaces in the Tysons area and beyond, particularly reaching further east into Arlington and Alexandria. And actually, we hope to next to move into Loudoun and Prince William as well. What that did, besides give us the opportunity to experience some new places, is to be able to offer some of these new spaces to our members and our friends, right? We have found that our members, by and large, did not even know where a lot of these places were, certainly hadn't seen them. So this was a great benefit we could offer, essentially a free benefit we could offer to our members, that now they saw that they had the opportunity to rent these places themselves for their own business purposes.
There were venues that I've never been to before. And some of them
Spectacular
are quite,
ones.
really great ones. And they are more flexible. You can fit a large crowd in them. And you're right, people otherwise might never have set foot in those places had it not been for going to an event. So you've had some very high profile speakers, particularly this year. In January, you had Michael Bloomberg.
Yes.
Explain how you got Michael Bloomberg. That was another case where we went to a new venue
Yes.
that we had not been to before. How did you get Michael Bloomberg in January?
Well, fortunately, we have a very dynamic programs committee headed by Ken Bieberai and Candace Bennett. Ken is a real force of nature. He is the former president of the Manhattan Chamber of Commerce. His family owns the Russian Tea Room in Manhattan, has wonderful connections in the New York community and indeed in Washington too, particularly with the ex-Obama administration officials. So Ken was able to convince Mayor Bloomberg to join us. I think everyone realizes with the January timing, Mayor Bloomberg was still making his own decision about a 2020 election.
That's before there were 24 Democratic nominees, candidates.
Exactly. So we had the good fortune of being something of a sounding board for Mayor Bloomberg as he was exploring his own prospects. He was able to test out some of his own messaging. Wonderful, wonderful event. 200 people, nationwide press. Just really a spectacular event. The governor came.
I think the former governor came. Congressman came.
Yes.
All kinds of people were at that event.
And it was really a marvelous event, and I think it really set us on the path that we're on now. Speaking of 2020,
right?
Yes, we actually had most recently, just last Friday, Mayor Pete Buttigieg, who was in town and actually in the state for a variety of events this past weekend. We were able to capture him for our June Signature Breakfast Series event last Friday at Convene in Arlington.
Never been there. What a spectacular space.
Mm-hmm. Yes, the view of DC up on the 23rd floor, really just amazing. The advantage of having Mayor Pete in that environment is we had held a moderated conversation. That's actually one of the other great innovations that we've launched over the past year is we kind of got out of the speaker getting up at a podium and
just
making
doing
a speech. Yeah, but we've had these moderated conversations. I think they've gone over very well with our audiences, particularly effective in this last event on Friday with Mayor Pete. That's a format in which he excels.
Truly, and you've got a ringer with Ken, because Ken did both those moderated sessions, and he clearly has a grasp of issues. He's very comfortable in the role. They're very comfortable with him. You know, that worked out extraordinarily well too.
Yes, indeed it did. And as you might imagine, beginning to get some interest from some of the other presidential candidates. So we're in conversations with think about a half dozen of the campaign committees now on potentially bringing in some of the other 2020 candidates as well. So we're very excited about that. And needless to say, we'll match their schedules.
Of course, when they're available.
Yes.
So explain a little bit about how you've really been very flexible with that too. So let's say you've got 6 more candidates and we've got Iowa and New Hampshire and the primaries coming up. In order to fit them all in, it would probably have to be more than 1 per month at this point.
Well, I think we now have our members and friends used to the fact that we're prepared to switch things up a bit. So we will certainly continue to do that. And it's a tremendous opportunity to showcase Virginia generally and Northern Virginia specifically. Clearly, we are a gem for any of the presidential candidates. And to hear Mayor Pete talk on Friday, it was almost thrilling to hear him talk about how Virginia provided a state like Indiana such hope.
In 2017, because
you
know that was the first election after the 2016 election. People had lost a lot of faith, and then we had the freshman 15. You know, we swept all of the Democratic offices, governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general, but then we turned around and we picked up 15 seats. Came so close in the House to flipping the chamber. And I like the fact that they understand that we've got elections this year in 2019, and this is a great place, since we have campaigns and elections in play, for them to show up. I mean, I think they do understand that, but again, having Mike Bloomberg show up, followed by Pete Buttigieg, it's kind of like, Dem Biz has laid an expectation that you can bring out I don't even know how many people. It looked like standing room only on Friday.
We were close to 300.
300 people. You know, that's a good audience, and it's Democratic business people.
Right.
So for Democratic candidates, Democratic business people, all in the same room, and you didn't have to get them there, sounds really good. So what about working with other venues? I mean, I know you've probably gone out and looked at venues, and I'm sure your you've got a really great executive
Yes.
committee team. But if people viewing our show tonight are interested in having you come out to their venue, you know, what would be the best way for someone getting in touch with you going, we'd love to have your event at our place?
So the best way to get a hold of us is through our wonderful executive director, Candace Williams, at Nova Dembiz, that's NOVADEMBIZ, at gmail.com. And she will get the message to those of us on the executive committee. You're certainly right, we have a top-notch executive committee. Ken and Candace, who I already mentioned, Chris King, who is the president-elect, former television journalist, so absolutely on top of our entire communication strategy, everything from earned media to social media, just an absolute whiz on that. And we've certainly have been able to get so much bang for the buck, if you will, out of all of our events. We have a great policy committee headed by Michael Cook, as well as, who's a longtime board member, as well as Luana Russell, who is a brand new board member, focusing on our policy initiatives, policy papers. So there is a tremendous opportunity to get involved in a variety of ways. So novadembiz at gmail.com, and also our website, dembiz.org. Great source of information for our programs and how to be in touch.
Well, I applaud you, like you said, for trying different venues, shaking it up, kind of shaking people out of this is the way we've always done it. And I think it's also an opportunity for people to visit venues around Northern Virginia.
Yes.
You know, we've done a lot around the Tysons area. We're doing things in Arlington. But certainly there are people, we've done things at the, it used to be the Mark Radisson, I don't know what it is anymore, down in Alexandria.
Oh, yes.
And we
that's
always
Hilton.
got a different crowd of people.
Yeah.
On the days that we did it there, people from Alexandria who don't normally come to Tysons were like, they were all there. So I'm hoping people will take you up on that and say, you know, come out to where we are and bring your presidential candidates with you.
I hope so too. We certainly have seen different audiences come to our events in Arlington, for example. And we hope that that will continue.
Well, I'm right with you. And again, on the 20th, this Thursday, people can go to 1776. We're going to a break. When we come back, we are talking with Lori McNamara. She is the president of the Democratic Business Council of Northern Virginia. So please, save up your questions. Join us after the break.
I surrender.
All right, pal. Get ready for the day, buddy.
Hey, Dad. Hey, Dad. Do we have a gun?
What's up?
Do we have a gun?
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made this vacation happen.
Double points with every purchase?
Cleverly merging promotions,
Love it.
cross-referencing travel sites, and booking all your flights with those.
Vouchers. I got us bumped.
They were like, oh. But now they're like, aloha. You aced this vacation. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
I tried Oxy at a couple of parties. I thought I had it under control. I didn't know it'd be this addictive. I didn't know how far I'd go to get more.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth.
What to expect when you're expecting.
Like here?
A teenager.
Today, I'm going to show you how to teen-proof your home. First step, hide the car keys. Preferably somewhere they would never look. Challenges will come up. Be ready for them. Hi, honey.
Ready for the... Mom, you don't use mannequins in the mannequin challenge.
You don't have to know it all to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and joining me tonight is Lori McNamara. She is the president of the Democratic Business Council of Northern Virginia. Thank you so much for being here, and we're sharing some of these exciting things that are happening with Dem Biz. We were talking a little bit about the diversity that's on your executive team and the changing up some of the places and changing up some of the kinds of events. Talk a little bit more about your organization reflecting more of the diversity of businesses in this area as well.
Well, I think it's really been remarkable to see how much, from a business standpoint, this area has changed over the past 10 years. As I mentioned at the top of the show, I'm a senior executive in the government contracting industry, and clearly the government contracting industry is still a major employer here in Northern Virginia. But when we talk about Amazon coming in, right? When we talk about major employers like Innova,
Hilton Worldwide,
Hilton
Volkswagen.
Worldwide.
I mean, we've got big ones.
Certainly, and George Mason, right? Virginia Tech and the new innovation campus coming into Alexandria. We also have small companies, small businesses, startup firms, headed by women, headed by veterans, headed by people of color that are increasingly forming an important part of our economy. And to be able to offer through Dem Biz an opportunity for those business people to come together, to network, to find new business opportunities, to learn more about what's going on in terms of policy, to be able to engage with their electeds is tremendous. So we see an incredible amount of diversity in our programming across all of those businesses, both for-profit and nonprofit. And we're excited to see that trend continue. As we start to move out from the Tysons area, we're clearly going to continue to have a major presence in this area, but as we do more events in Arlington or Alexandria or Loudoun County, Phyllis Randall has been begging me to come out to Loudoun County.
She certainly has come out to Tyson, so it's about time that...
Yeah, and we should repay the favor. Prince William, and these are tremendous areas where we actually draw members and friends already. So let's actually take our programming out to those areas as well and engage in even broader base of the business community.
You know, you bring up something interesting. When I went to this conference, Inclusion Incorporated, and there was a government contractor there talking about how their commitment to their supply chain was about making sure that they were raising up, partnering with, and supporting women, minority, veteran-owned businesses, and now they've added LGBT-owned businesses to that list. That was fascinating to me to hear a really big company say that we are committed to small, diverse businesses in our supply chain. I'd not heard that before. But as you pointed out, we've got big companies, but we have a huge number of those smaller companies that in some ways support the larger government contractors.
Absolutely. We're seeing businesses live those values of inclusion with a level of intentionality that we've never seen before. And it's exciting. It's also a little bit scary in the sense that a lot of these businesses, a lot of these entrepreneurs don't know how to make the connections. These are not circles that they have necessarily been involved in or necessarily welcomed into in the past. So that's why Dem Biz is yet another reason why it's such an important forum for these companies and these entrepreneurs to engage, and we're very happy to offer that.
You know, I think you make another point, you kind of made it earlier about being different from a Chamber of Commerce. You know, the Northern Virginia Chamber of Commerce, very large, and they do have a legislative agenda, and they do have a PAC, and they do make endorsements. And I just know that because my husband happened to sit on that board.
Yes.
So, but as far as engaging in certain kinds of things that Dem Biz says these are democratic values. You mentioned it before. Employers have to thrive, but employees have to thrive. Being on the side of a business does not mean being anti-worker.
No, not at all. Quite the opposite these days, in fact. Just the kinds of values that we talked about earlier around paid family leave, around early childhood education, around affordable housing, huge issue, workplace housing, workforce housing, workforce development. All of these are absolutely critical, and they are very much in the Democratic sweet spot. So it's not that those are partisan issues per se. We didn't make them partisan. It's the environment today, the hyper-partisan environment today, had basically made those issues come to us.
Absolutely, they have. And again, everybody believes through messaging that Republicans are pro-business. Not Mike, they claimed that mantle a long time ago. And so Democrats have been left in the position of constantly pushing back against that. People associate us with organized labor, which is terrific. I mean, yes, we proudly embrace our unions and organized labor, but these things are not necessarily at odds with one another. And I think the more we have speakers and programs that demonstrate how you can be pro-business in a way that is pro-employee. I would say that has been missing from the conversations that people are having at chambers.
No, I totally agree. And that is certainly another mission that we feel like Dem Biz has. And we're very pleased that it's not just us here in Northern Virginia that feel that way, but we've been able to be a source of inspiration for similar Democratic Business Councils organizations in both the Hampton Roads area and in Richmond. And in conversations with leaders in both those areas, we talk about the same things. It's all about the values that business are espousing to attract and retain their employees.
Of course, we're fortunate because when you talk about Dem Biz and Hampton Roads, and Andrea McClellan has been very, very active in that, and Rebecca Gwilt was very active in founding Dem Biz RVA.
Right.
But that's the Golden Crescent, what we refer to as the Golden Crescent. That goes from Northern Virginia through Richmond into the East Coast. Poor Roanoke down there. There are Democrats down there, and there are Democratic business people down there. The whole point of an organization like this is to help people find each other when it seems like you are vastly outnumbered, which once upon a time up here we were. So, it is a replicable model. I think people should be aware of that any place in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and I know that there are organizations in Maryland and North Carolina similar to this as well, that it's a matter of bringing people together and talking about what you can do and how you can influence policy that is pro-business, pro-community, pro-worker.
Oh, absolutely. And we have a tremendous opportunity to extend this model to places like Roanoke. I think Roanoke would very much be next on my list. But there are also other areas as well. Lynchburg is a great example.
True.
Right. So I think that this is a great opportunity now that we've done so much to get our own house in order, to turn our attention to how we can work with Hampton Roads, with Richmond, and certainly with those who are interested in places like Roanoke and Lynchburg to start their own chapters, if you will, their own associations, and really extend this model, because you're right. And the beauty of Dem Biz as a model is these are people finding each other, establishing relationships. Business is all about relationships. And that's at the heart of what we do, and that's at the heart of what we want to extend to others.
And again, that takes me back to the Medicaid expansion, because the hospitals were actually behind Medicaid expansion across the Commonwealth, including in the rural parts that are entirely red and represented by Republicans. And you look at things like that and you're like, how can we find a place where people can come together, even if it's about specific issues like that? There has to be a way. And certainly paid family leave, what benefits families is going to benefit the economy of the Commonwealth of Virginia, across the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Absolutely, absolutely. I still have business people coming up to me saying, I can't believe there's an organization like Dem Biz. I thought I was alone in how I felt about my values and how I live those out through my business activities, which even in this day and age, you just think, how could that be possible? But it's true. It is true.
No, I agree, and I like I said, when I went to this Inclusion Incorporated and I saw IBM and United Airlines, and they were like, and we are involved in influencing policy, and we are involved in raising up our LGBT employees. And I'm like, this is gutsy. Like, if I hadn't gone, I wouldn't have even known that this was going on. And you're right, it doesn't have to be big businesses. There are small businesses, you know, that value, and I will just say this about the LGBT community. People in Virginia are not aware that people can be fired, denied housing, or denied public accommodation because they are not protected either federally or in the state. And so businesses who have, and know they have, LGBTQ employees should be concerned about whether they are doing business in a state where their employees are safe.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, I think people also don't realize that we do not have the legal protections of the ERA either.
Oh my gosh,
right?
That's another one. That's another one. John Oliver told his audience about the Equal Rights Amendment that Virginia owes this to America. That's exactly what he said. Virginia owes us passing it. We owe that to America. And I think he's right. And I do think that business people who feel like this is important to the health of their business and the welfare of their employees, and also to the broader community too. There are places where the communities are not thriving everywhere across the Commonwealth of Virginia, and you hope that businesses are asking themselves, how do you attract businesses? How do you get people to start businesses or stay here or expand their businesses? So I want to talk a little bit too about, you've taken advantage of some unique opportunities. You had an event called the Two Chiefs.
Yes.
You know, I don't know how that came about, but it was a brilliant idea. It was the chief of staff for Mark Warner and the chief of staff for Tim Kaine. And they went and they did a panel, and people were able to ask them questions. It was a wonderful networking event. You know, things like that. It was a one-off. It was not a regular thing. These are the kind of opportunities I think people are going to be looking for.
Well, and I think that goes back to our earlier conversation about the diversity of venues. There's also a diversity of event format and timing that we're talking about. So I hear all the time, I cannot get up and make it to Tyson's for a 7:30 a.m. breakfast on a Friday. I totally hear that, believe me. I commute from Alexander every day, so I appreciate that. So the Two Chiefs event was actually an evening event. It was an evening reception. How about that? Right?
It was great.
It broke the mold, but we want to keep that mold broken.
Absolutely, and the candidate forum work you've done has been invaluable as well. You hosted a candidate forum for all the chair candidates for the Fairfax County.
Yes.
And you know, and that's a service. And so when we come back from our break, please stay with us. We have one more segment to go, talking with Lori McNamara. She is the president of the Democratic Business Council of Northern Virginia. Join us after the break.
I can't believe we broke Old Man Hennessy's window. Correction, dude. You broke. I just threw the ball. This is really bad. What are we gonna do? We? Go to the door, ask for the ball back. Are you serious? It's my ball, Myrtleback. You're so dead.
I'd run away.
Yeah, to Uruguay.
Kiss your life goodbye. Sorry.
Let's go. See you, dude. See ya. You remember me and your well. Nice life.
Some friends you are. Hi.
Hi.
Tell him it was an accident. And we can fix the window. Come on. I'll come with you.
Loyalty. Pass it on.
You go first.
A message from the Foundation for a Better Life.
One day these rats were playing in the woods. Well, it's some matches and that's no good. Listen to smoke before you give it a try. Only you. Don't play with matches. Don't play with fire. Cause there's nothing very funny about free nothing very nice. Holy smile. So if a gorgeous force is what you desire, don't play with matches. Don't play with fire.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Fire.
Awkward. I'm the awkward silence. You try to avoid me, then there I am again.
But an awkward silence can be a great thing.
Like Kelly here is about to demonstrate.
You haven't really been yourself lately. Are you okay?
Find Find out how you can help a friend with their mental health at seizetheawkward.org.
We're back to the Inside Scoop. Here again, your host.
Welcome back to Inside Scoop. I'm your host, Catherine Reed, and we're talking with Lori McNamara tonight. She is the president of the Democratic Business Council of Northern Virginia. So, Lori, we've had so many exciting events at Dem Biz. I was remembering the 10th anniversary. Paul Begala was the speaker.
Oh, yes.
Yes, and all kinds of people showed up to that one too. We get congressmen and governors and attorney generals and all kinds of people come to these events. But what are some of the other kinds of events that you're hoping to do?
Well, I think one of the most impactful event types that we've had over the past, well, certainly over the past year, I know we've done these in the past as well, are candidate forums. So last year we did the 10th Congressional District candidates.
I remember very well.
Yes, and of course that's the position that Congresswoman Wexton holds now. But dynamic field of candidates to include Representative Wexton on that forum. Excellent opportunity to ask business-focused questions, engage the candidates in that forum. Before we went to break, you were mentioning the fact that just last month we held a similar forum for the candidates for the
Fairfax County Board of Supervisors
chair, right? As well as the two candidates for Commonwealth's attorney in Fairfax County. Also a great opportunity, very substantive discussions on major issues. Last year's CD10 forum was moderated by Atima Omara, and the chair and Commonwealth's attorney forums were moderated by Julie Carey, both of whom asked tremendous questions and really engaged the candidates. And that's a tremendous service that we're able to provide. We don't have a obviously position on specific candidates, so we're able to provide a neutral forum, if you will, but we're also able to provide audiences that will resonate with the positions that the candidates have. So they find it to be a place where they can safely engage in substantive policy discussions. That's a huge service we provide to the community.
Absolutely, and I think the other thing about these forums and the kinds of questions you cover, talking about things like criminal justice reform and what that has to do with business, ex-felons have an impossible time finding a place to live, finding a job. The background checks eliminate a lot of people who've been incarcerated. That is a business issue.
Absolutely.
And
it is.
And it's Democrats who are talking about the impact of having so many people not only incarcerated but formerly incarcerated. This to me squarely is a business issue, but through the Democratic lens, it's about what we have to do to reform it.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a fairness issue. It's an equity issue. It also is, as you say, a business issue. Again, we are in an economy with essentially 0% unemployment. It's absurd that there is a workforce, right? Members of a potential workforce out there that we're not able to employ because of ban the box, right?
Right.
Other discriminatory legal and policy decisions. So absolutely, it's a business issue.
The other one that we actually got through during the last special session, there's another one coming up on July 9th, but was the suspended driver's license, not suspending people's driver's license for unpaid court fines and fees anymore. That affected 600,000 Virginians. And again, I think there were businesses who took a position saying this needs to be eliminated. You're penalizing poor people. And in the Commonwealth of Virginia, where you don't have highly developed public transportation outside of Northern Virginia, this impacted people's ability to work.
Absolutely, and their livelihoods.
So, connecting the dots, and this is what I love about Dem Biz, is it's connecting those kinds of dots. It's in a different way than the chamber. And even though these things should not be partisan issues, many times they have become partisan issues. So we put on our Democratic hat and we're like, we're going to band together and we're going to do something to try to influence public policy. So tell me a little bit about what you have coming up in July, September, what's going on down the road.
Yep. Okay, so of course we talked about our event this week at 1776 on June 20th with our Women in Politics panel discussion. In July, on July 17th, we're hosting Dr. Joseph Stiglitz, who of course is economist and Nobel Prize winner. Dr. Stiglitz is coming out with a new book that he's going to be coming and talking with us about. He's done a lot of work around economics and their impact on elections, so very timely topic as we're looking towards 2020 in particular. So we're very much looking forward to talking with Dr. Stiglitz. On September 6th, so right after Labor Day, we're hosting a old and good friend of Dem Biz, former Governor Terry McAuliffe, who will be joining us after a summer of traversing the state, campaigning for our General Assembly delegation. That'll be a fascinating time. As we know, Governor McAuliffe made a deliberate choice to put aside some of his own ambitions at this point and take that on behalf of the party and the state. So we're expecting that he'll have some very good tales from the trail to share with us, and we'll be looking forward to that.
So we've had Helen from Tyson's Corner has sent us a question. Her question is do you have to be a business owner or a business person to be involved with Dem Biz?
No, actually you don't. We have a wide variety of participants, everything from business owners to students and everyone in between. So we encourage everyone to get to know us and be involved.
So just an interest in business, basically.
Yes.
If you're interested in business, and quite frankly, we all should be interested in business because it's the basis of how well our economy functions. So yes, I agree. There's such a diverse group of people who show up to the breakfast meetings. Yeah. And I love it when young people come. And Tom and I like to bring young people with us so that they can get an idea of how Democrats like to talk about business. Maybe they haven't seen that before. So talking about people getting, not just coming to the breakfast, how can people get involved? Maybe people are watching the show and they didn't know you existed, and it's kind of like, this is such a great idea. What opportunities exist for people to get involved with Dem Biz?
Well, our programming is what we're most known for, and we have tremendous opportunities to be involved with planning and executing programs. I mentioned earlier in the show major opportunity to be involved with our first annual Dem Biz Business Awards. We have a committee that's just been formed to put together that event for us next year. We're hoping that it will be an annual event, so I'm very happy to have people involved. There's a job for everyone when you plan an awards event.
That's a big thing. I mean, the nominations, the applications, the committee, the deciding, it's a big job.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we would very much welcome anyone who is interested in being involved with that process. We also, as we've talked about earlier, we have a policy committee under the leadership of two of our board members, Michael Cook and Luana Russell. Michael and Luana are in the process of soliciting paper ideas from our members and friends. So if there is an interest from any of your viewers in influencing public policy around some of the issues that we've talked about tonight, we would be very interested in hearing from you. The best way to get a hold of us, again, is through an email, and that email address is novadembiz@gmail.com, novadembiz@gmail.com. That's the most direct way to get a hold of us. We will get back to you. We also have a website, dembiz.org, where you can find out more generally about our programs, our upcoming events, and how to become a member, including what it costs to become a member. We also have a very active social media presence. We have a Facebook site, which I encourage all of your viewers to like. A lot of good materials, some great photos from our
Photos. Okay,
yes.
Photos. We have to give a shout out to Mike Beatty.
Yes.
My gosh. So Mike Beatty is just this like bonus. Yeah. He's just a Democratic bonus, but he comes to the Dem Biz events. He puts his fabulous photos out on Flickr.
Yes.
And the photo that I have from Bloomberg event and the Buttigieg event were Mike Beatty photos. We are so blessed to have Mike
we are,
always there to capture the moment. But again, if people have ideas that they want to advocate for, I mean, paid family leave for me would be like at the top of my list right now. For, I don't care how small your business is, it's kind of like people shouldn't have to decide between are they going to have a family or are they going to have a job? And, you know, does one preclude the other, and that just isn't right. And so, you know, other kinds of things that people are interested in, Dem Biz might be the very organization to say, I would look at taking a position on this.
Absolutely, absolutely. We're interested in hearing from our members and friends about the issues that they care about. They're on the ground with their own businesses, with their employers, with their own organizations. So we very much look forward to hearing from all of you about the issues that you care about.
So one last thing, you don't have to be a member to come to the event.
Correct.
But you do need to be a member if you want to nominate or vote on your, and those nominations and the vote is coming up pretty soon, is it not?
Yes, so our membership year runs from January through December. We have a board of 12, and 4 of those members will be rolling off at the end of this year on December 31st. We have 3-year terms for each of our board members, so we'll be looking for candidates to run for those 4 positions. We have a number of members and friends who are interested in running. We're always looking for more. Our emphasis is really on diversity in all sense of that word, including diversity of representation across business, across location, certainly in terms of ethnic, gender, et cetera. Age is a very big thing for us. We've been very fortunate to have some younger board members join us, and they've brought some tremendous
energy
ideas, energy, everything that we need. So, so again, novadembiz@gmail.com if you're interested in running for a board position, or short of that, getting involved with one of our committees. There's plenty of opportunity to get involved.
Absolutely. And also sponsoring events too, I might add.
Yes.
So you're always looking for sponsors for these events. And people should look at the website. And if you're not sure about Dem Biz, come to an event.
Yep.
That is the best way to get familiar with what the organization is, who's in it, and what we exist for.
Right. So like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, find us on LinkedIn. You'll see everything that we do.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Lori. You know, I'm a big believer in Dem Biz. I'm glad that I had an opportunity following such a high profile, such an excellent event on Friday. So that kudos to you. I can't wait to see who the other Democratic nominees are going to be. Thank you so much for joining us at home.